Greg Eric.
Is that what he says? I thought
We
it ready to rumble.
are live. No, that's
Oh.
Michael Buffer.
Sorry.
Anyway, we're here with a friend of the show. This is another double digiter, maybe. We had Ellis Yon earlier. Have you been on the show more than 10 times? I don't know. It's up there, Peter.
A high single digit.
Peter Brown, welcome back. Welcome back. Love to have you on, as always.
Peter Brown.
So,
Greg.
people have been saying, I think Lightfair wasn't a bust. I think there's a lot of people here. I think a lot of people were worried that the show wasn't going to succeed. And, while I don't think it went gangbusters, I think it's been a successful show. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're seeing is just the passing of COVID is pretty much done. Supply chain issues are pretty much over. Economies.
I'm just going to adjust your mic there really quickly there. Go ahead. Sorry about that.
I think there's a lot of the unknowns that pretty much passed by, and people are just getting on with work and life, and so it's obviously a different show, but I don't think it's a worse show. I think it's just different, and so you've got a lot of young people here, which is great, and so I think it's a great show.
It's just kind of what reality is now, or maybe we're figuring out what reality is going to be or what they're going to be like going forward. But yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's the right thing, and it's something we need to do and continue on with for sure.
I see a lot of people talking and having animated conversations. We had a couple of great sessions yesterday. It was full. A lot of feedback within the audience. So, they're here to learn. They're here to participate. So that's a good thing.
How do we get, it's interesting you brought in young people and,
It's because I'm so old. Everybody's young.
But I mean, I'm 45 now. I'm not the, I used to be, a young and up and coming, you know what I mean? But now I look at the industry and I think to myself, how do we attract more people, more talented people to this industry? Like, how do we attract them? It seems like it's tough, actually.
So in the two sessions we had yesterday, which was about the combination of electrification and controls and lighting in general, where it's all going, half of the room was electrical engineers. And I bet you that the average age was probably in the 30s.
Is that right?
So I think there's a passing of the guard. If you looked 5 to 10 years ago, the age would have probably been at least 10 years older. And so there's a lot more average age of younger people that are participating. I think the whole electrification thing will draw the lighting industry in. Just
when you say electrification, what are you talking about? Explain that to us.
So basically the shift in new load, replacing fossil fuels with electricity, primarily whether it's directly for vehicles or a power supply, meaning natural gas generation versus wind or solar.
Sure.
So that whole is such a huge change on so many different levels, from generation all the way down to consumption. And that's going to impart, especially controls in buildings, and lighting will get involved in that. So that's what electrification is.
So did you do some topics here? You were a speaker?
Yeah. I was
What were your sessions?
I just basically talked about electrification and how it was impacting the lighting industry, as far as here's what's going on and here's what's going to happen potentially because of all of this. The whole electrification from generation to end use is all wired. Fossil fuels, on the other hand, you've got tanker trucks that take it to a fuel station, whatever. So there's this huge infrastructure play. And because of that, the cost to make that happen is totally going to change the dynamic of, for example, network lighting controls. You're going to want to control the heck out of everything you touch in a building that's electric to be able to control it better, to reduce the load better.
So what you're calling for is first of all, how did you go from sales guy to futuristic prognosticator? That's what I want to know. How did you make that transition? I mean,
I just love change. I mean, to me, this isn't work. I'm just fascinated.
Yes,
by
I
change.
sense that from you.
And so it's just, I mean, it's such a huge scale, and
But you're stepping back. You're thinking about it, and you're trying to, like, I said prognosticator. I mean, I think that's a bit of a pejorative. I meant it as a joke. You know what I'm saying? It's like Monday morning. No, what is it? Monday afternoon, Friday afternoon quarterback or something like that,
Monday,
right?
yep.
Like, what are they going to do? He's going to do this or whatever. Right? We're looking down the road and we see. I know we see major change, and if people talk about change, and they always spin it as it's positive, like change is positive, but actually people hate change. You know that?
That's right.
They hate it, and they want stability. They don't want change. People want things to stay the same, Peter, but you're telling them that things are going to be electrified, that there's not going to be gas stations anymore, that the old way of doing business is over. I think you're right about that. But how does that flow through to the American people, to the people of the world?
So as far as just our industry and the people that are involved in making decisions and whatever they're going to do, we've talked about this before. There's such an incredible guideline out there through a book called Crossing the Chasm.
Okay.
And basically, okay, you've got to disrupt the technology. How do you bring it to the marketplace? And that's what's going to be forced on people in the next coming generations.
What technology is that?
As far as electrification, in other words, you're shifting from a fossil fuel to an electric power supply.
But you're saying that's the innovation in and of itself.
Right. But now you've got to deliver that somehow, some way. For example, right now you go to a gas station with your car in Toronto or in Phoenix or wherever, in 5 or 10 minutes you're done.
Yeah.
If you have an electric car, it can take you anywhere from half an hour.
You've got to do return to base with that. You charge, you return to base, right?
So it's just anytime you have innovation. Look, this thing is like 10 times the value of whatever you did before with everything that you can now
Sure.
do on this. So everybody's got one. And so electrification, and especially electric vehicles, it's not that way because all of a sudden you're going from 5 or 10 minutes to a charge, fill your gas tank, to hours. So how do you get around that? So what's happening is things like people are saying, well, I don't want to wait that long. So for example, Walmart, they did a test in 100 stores. They put in the fastest chargers they could get. 1.2 megawatts
Holy shit.
per store for just 4 chargers. It's more than the whole store uses for KW.
Oh, people don't realize that charging infrastructure sucks the grid.
And so Kmart did the test and they said, okay, we're going to do all 5,000 locations in the country with,
Wow.
with level 3 chargers. So the dynamic of all of this is just, it's on such a scale that it's amazing.
Why is and I think we've talked before, and we had our nailed convention last year where we spent a lot of time on this, but why is lighting so involved in EV charging? Where did that come from?
Okay, so lighting was primarily, especially through the distribution channel, was primarily sold to contractors, whether it's direct or indirect through ESCOs and whatever
Sure.
else. And so all of a sudden, the contractors are saying, wait a minute, LED adoption is starting to wind down. In the next 5 to 10 years, it's going to reduce and get smaller and smaller. What am I going to do? Well, okay, I'm going to go and start installing EV chargers. And so you've got people like different manufacturers here. I'm not going to say who, but there's a number here that actually have chargers here. They're selling them.
Breeze EV, light efficient design.
Yeah.
Say one,
And-
Yeah. Well, they're a member of Nailed Light Efficient
right.
Design. Go to led-llc.com. Check them out.
So they have. That's how. I mean, it's just the way. Okay, we've got to sell something. We're not selling this as much anymore. So what else can we sell?
So hang on. So are you projecting a leveling off or a decline in revenue in lighting?
Absolutely. So for example,
He said that definitively without even thinking about it.
There's an entity, I'm not going to say who, one of the third-party administrators for utility programs has done now 5 states where they've talked to all the distributors, they run all sorts of numbers, and on the East Coast, West Coast, they're at about 70, we talked about this before, Ontario's about 70%
Yeah,
done
70% done,
in
yeah.
commercial, industrial, larger
Yeah,
customers.
sure.
East Coast, West Coast is about the same, Midwest is about 60%, but it's happening at 5% per year. So in the next 5 to 10 years,
It's over.
you're going to be left with 20,000 square foot and under buildings that take forever to do, and they
But
wait,
you know what we're seeing on my end, and maybe you can say this the same thing.
Sure.
I'm more and more and more. I have probably right now, Greg, 6 fixtures in my shop from different places that are burned out,
Yes.
and they're LEDs.
Oh, yeah.
And we're seeing if the driver is going to work, if we can fix it with the driver, or if we have to buy all new fixtures. And unfortunately for this car dealership, this commercial lobby or whatever, they're finding out. Guess what? You got two options here. The first is we can change the driver for you, but you know what? The LED array is at about 50% of its light output. Or you can change the fixture. Either way, it's a $3,000 job or it's a $13,000 job.
Right.
Which one do you want to do?
Plus, when you did it, the chances are you didn't put in network lighting control. The cost of electricity from 10 years ago, when you did the first generation, has gone up by whatever.
Sure.
And so the ROI can be significantly different. And what you put in 6, 8, 10 years ago was 100 lumens per watt. Now you can get 150, 170.
Right.
No, but people are pissed off that they can't change a light bulb, though. And I think we're underestimating that, Greg.
Yeah, no, and I'm looking at an example I just had the other day where there was a building that was built in 2019, 50 high bays put in, and 8 of them are out. 8 are out already.
In 4 years.
Yeah, 3 years.
3 years.
Maybe I did the math wrong, but yeah, either way, 220. So 3 years, and I didn't know what the fixture is. They don't know what the fixture is, so I just said we're going to replace fixtures, but they're going to look different.
Yes.
And they were fine with it in this case. So it's 8 fixture sale, but yeah, that's
a nice sale.
That's nice, but I mean that's
I'll
the
take
weird
a-
now. Like
that's
we're
a-
gonna have all these
That's
different
like
looking
that's like a
fixtures.
$2,000 sale right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't mind that.
Yeah, I'll take
I'll
it.
take it.
Yeah, yeah. We're
But
gonna have more of those.
you know what I'm telling you right now, folks? If you're listening to this and you're talking to Peter Brown, the industry is changing. The industry used to be about MO. What do they call it? MO. What is it?
MRO.
MRO, where you're selling boxes of light bulbs and ballasts into the commercial industrial channels and all that sort of stuff. Now everything's a project, buddy. What is that fixture? I don't know.
It's a
Is the
project.
company still in business anymore? I don't know.
Oh.
Do you get the driver on it? What about the LED array? I don't know. You know what? Just replace the fixture. Wow, the fixture's $400. You sure you want us to look at that? Everything's a project, Peter.
So another benefit, potentially opportunity for lighting retrofit is you're going to see utilities go from basically a prescriptive program that's service territory wide. So Ontario Hydro says, okay, $100 for a high bay LED fixture everywhere we supply electricity.
Sure.
All of a sudden now, with all of this new load coming in, wait a minute, in downtown Toronto, where we're going to put a bunch of charging stations, and we now have to put transformers underground or whatever we've got to do that's going to cost a boatload of money, we're going to incentivize the heck out of a 4 square block area to get power out of those
They're
buildings.
already doing that.
There you go.
They're already
so
doing
there's
that.
a whole, it's just a
There's
different dynamic on what's low-hanging fruit.
Yeah. They're willing to, certain areas that Ontario, they're willing to pay $1,200 a kilowatt now. Okay, so it's already happening. $1,200 a kilowatt's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money,
right?
Even for
Canadian,
you.
even in Canadian, it's like okay, so go $850 a kilowatt, American, right? But you take a look at it, like a lot of people do not understand the scale of charging batteries at these kinds of batteries. Like if you had electric cars for a full condominium, a multi-residential high-rise building, the charging of the cars would exceed the entire load of the building probably by 5 times.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Maybe 10 times.
Yeah.
Like the infrastructure to do this is not in place, put it that way. And now Ontario is a jurisdiction that is electricity rich. So we could fire up another nuke any day, like just get it going, and we have more electricity than we can ever use. It's clean. We got hydro and nuclear in Ontario. 95% of Ontario is clean. So I heard this, the CEO of Ontario Power Generation stood up at a conference 3 or 4 years ago, and he said, if everyone in Ontario adopts an electric vehicle, the price of electricity will go down in Ontario, and we're one of the few jurisdictions in the world that can say that.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Because that's not going to happen around here.
No, you guys are totally screwed in most of the states.
Unless you take every watt out of an existing
You
building.
can't. There's only so much there.
I know, but one of the big labs down here, the National DOE lab, said, look, we think you can take 50% of the coming load out of existing buildings. Now, you got to do a huge deep dive retrofit, but you're going to be able to pay for it because of the avoided cost of doing it the other way.
There's so much pressure on lighting, Peter, for efficiency. When are the refrigeration guys and the HVAC guys going to step up?
Well, I've been talking to other people who I'm out here about saying, okay, instead of calling it network lighting controls, call it network building control,
Yeah, that.
where you integrate it with HVAC.
So the HVAC guys have a huge head start on lighting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you go down to the First Canadian place. Okay, that building is never heated; it's only cooled. So the First Canadian place has no heating; it only has cooling. That's how big this building is. It's constantly negative 30 outside in Toronto. The First Canadian place is being cooled.
Wow.
Okay, all year round. So imagine the fortune they spend on electricity in the summer months. Okay. So they have the controls. They have screens of all. You go into their mechanical room where they're running. The engineers are running the building. They have screens at the HVAC, all the zoning, all this sort of stuff. No lighting in there. They don't know anything about their lighting, but they already have all the HVAC controls they need. Now they may have changed that since I've been in the First Canadian place. Okay, so it's been whatever 4 or 5 years since I've been there. But I mean, lighting is saying we're going to take over the HVAC controls. I actually think it's the other way around.
But again, every situation is different. It's just the whole dynamic of this is changing from, as I said, a service territory wide incentive program to much more localized. They're already doing that in California because of the issues of how much more it's going to cost them to add load. I mean, in Chicago, they've got old abandoned steel mills.
Sure.
Okay, where they've got a boatload of infrastructure, but they need the power 10 miles away downtown.
Folks, thank you for listening to my good friend. You know what? I'll tell you. I would say that one of the first people I ever met in lighting many years ago who taught me so much stuff was Peter Brown. So I'd like to thank you
It's
here.
almost 20 years. You realize
Yeah,
that?
I know. 20 years ago we met. And I've learned so much from this guy, and I continue to learn. So thank you for being a part of Get a Grip on Lighting,
Thank you, Peter.
and all you listeners out there. You know what? Why don't you check out nailed.org, Greg Eric, or satco.com, or led-llc.com, or keystonetech.com. Whatever you need, Nailed's got it. And if you're a distributor and you're listening to this, get in this association. If you're a contractor, join NALMCO. I mean, get after it, folks. Get associated. Let's go. This industry is ready to fire it up. So thank you for listening. Bye for now.